Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And joining me this week from I've Seen That One is Klarissa Beckstead. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting, and I absolutely love your channel.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And well, let's tell our viewers a little bit about more of what you do. So, if you'd like to shamelessly plug about your Instagram page.
Absolutely. I grew up watching older movies with my mom,
Mhm.
Golden Age, not really silent, but kind of
Mm.
like early sound and on. And I just absolutely loved movies my whole life. As I got older and, came into college and meeting new friends and things like that, I found a lot of people saying to me, "How can you call yourself a movie buff if you haven't seen blank?" And like would just say a movie. And there were sometimes I'd get really like defensive about that and be like, what are you kidding me right now? Like, I don't have to see all of them. But there were quite a few where I agreed. And so I decided to go on this massive venture and make a huge list, just did all this research, bought a bunch of books and things like that to make this ultimate watch list because there really had been so many. So I was watching like American Psycho and Braveheart and Top Gun in the same day. Like so much. And I was kind of getting anxious about it. I feel like I couldn't sleep at night because I was like, there are too many movies and I haven't seen them all. And so
The
so that was
answer
this
is
journey.
there are too many movies, and you'll
Too many.
never be able to watch all of them.
It's so true. I've found that I
Mm.
can sleep now, but this whole journey for me has been finding more movies that I want to add to that list that are classics and, reviewing them and just familiarizing myself more with all those movies. So it's been so much fun, and that's the reason behind the name of my page is now I can finally say to those people, I've seen that one.
There
So
we go.
so that's kind of where I'm at. My newest project is called Phone a Friend. It is where I collaborate with other people who also love movies, just in a real setting. So short 3-minute videos. So if anybody is into that, it is on my Instagram starting in March, which is this month now, which is crazy.
As
So
we're
yeah.
recording. So there you
Yes.
go. But that's awesome. And, you know, amongst a lot of my friends, like I write at a website and have a lot of movie friends, and I'm like, I'm that guy that has seen like an insane amount of movies. And the second you admit to having not seen one, is just the opening of a door that people just like bulldoze through, and they're like, how haven't you seen that one? And it's just like, I don't think you understand how many movies.
Yes.
And you know cinema's been a thing since the late 1800s. There's more films that have been lost than there are films that most people watch in their whole entire lives. So, but being able to, explore and enjoy and, craft detailed watch lists is always the fun thing to do as a cinephile, right?
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Totally. I love that. And you know what? You're right. It really is one of those things that we can't see them all, but it's fun to make it a journey. So
yes,
totally agree.
it's fun to set the goal and,
Yes.
pursue it and stuff like that. But let's get started and learn a little bit more about you, Clarissa. Now, what's your favorite film?
So, of course, just like anybody else who loves movies, this is a really difficult question,
Yes.
but it's a great question at the same time. I have a tie for three, and in my
Okay.
life, at different times, they've kind of stepped to first or second or third place,
Hmm.
and I actually have them all as posters on my wall.
There you go.
But my first one is mostly, almost always La La Land. Uh, La La Land embodies everything that I'm really passionate about. She loves movies. It is musical, which I grew up doing musical theater for about 18 years.
Okay.
And yeah, and I love old movies. And so when she's talking about bringing up Baby and Casablanca, I'm like, like I know what you're talking about, which is just so fun for me.
Mhm.
So I would definitely say La La Land. My second is Die Hard, which I've got right over here.
Very
But
nice.
I love Die Hard. Die Hard is just Personally, just about a perfect film. It is so fun. Um, and then my third is actually this movie is called The Ghost of Mrs. Muir, and it's a Rex Harrison and Gene Tierney film from 1945. Yeah, super fun. It's a rom-com about a woman who moves into a haunted house and falls in love with the ghost. So, just fun. It's the one that really got me into kind of golden age classics and yeah, but I do have to say first place for years and years since it came out, honestly, has been La La Land.
I have to say, 2016 was such a deceptively amazing year for movies.
Oh my
And
gosh.
some of my favorite movies of the past, I guess, yeah, 10 years have come out of 2016. There's just so many great ones. And La La Land, I remember walking out of that just being so enchanted. And it's the kind of film that makes you want to love film even more. So I think that's something special. And I've been watching Die Hard with my mom since I was a kid. And I legitimately do think that it is one of the best scripts ever put together because it is absolutely perfect. It just has everything, and the cast is so perfect, even from like everybody from top to bottom to Agent Johnson and Special Agent Johnson. It's just so perfectly put together. And now I have one to make sure to check off my, oh, now I've seen that one because I have not seen The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, so I'll definitely have to check that one out. But I have to say, I have watched a lot more screwball comedies and rom-coms from back in like the 30s and the 40s and the 50s as of late. And they just don't make strange high concept setups for rom-coms like they used to.
They really
And
don't.
it's just like now it's honestly it feels so formulaic in terms of like it's the same cookie cutter thing. It was wild. They had some of the
Totally.
weirdest setups for romance. I'm just like, my wife and I just rewatched Arsenic and Old Lace and His Girl Friday, and it's just like they're absolutely bonkers, but they're just so much fun,
So
and
bonkers.
we need to get that energy back with our rom coms today for sure.
I totally agree.
Absolutely. Now, Clarissa, what was your earliest memory of going to the movies?
So I actually have a couple, and I don't know which one came first, which
Hmm.
I could have just looked at the dates of when they came out and put
Hmm.
that together, but I didn't. I have the movie that I remember all the way through as like an emotional experience. I loved it. I remember every detail of that movie was 2004's Phantom of the Opera. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I was born in 1999, so this was kind of one that like my memory is starting to form. I was 5 years old when this came out. And we all went and saw it. And like I said, I came from a very musical family. We love musical theater. And so this movie, and oh my gosh, Gerard Butler was just so
Mm.
handsome. We were all freaking out about it. But yeah, so this one is the one that I really remember, like top to bottom, beginning to end
Mm.
movie. I have very weird random memories of watching Chicken Little in the
Nice.
theaters. But I don't remember, and I actually haven't seen it since. So I'm like, I have very, very mixed, like
Mm.
mix and matched memories of Chicken Little. But so that one might be first. I really don't know.
It's so one, my mom was such a big fan of Phantom and had the like Sarah Brightman CD of like her performing in the show and would listen to that all the time. And I distinctly remember buying my mom the DVD of Joel Schumacher's adaptation when that came out on DVD for her birthday, and she absolutely loved it. And it's just so funny where it's just like, oh my God, what a disgusting looking Gerard Butler is the Phantom. And it's just like,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, what is like a third of his face like slightly disfigured? But
Yeah,
it's like, but it really works. And it's so funny watching him in things now. Because like the
right.
vast majority of people are just like Jared Butler's this tough guy from 300 and this or that. Is like he I'll always remember him when he was the Phantom
It's
first.
the Phantom. Yeah. That is so funny. I feel like it's the same thing. Either people think of him from the 300 or they think of him from like P.S. I love you, like something just random like
Yep.
that, or they just know him as Phantom. And a lot of people were so upset, I feel like, because Phantom is not supposed to be like handsome at all. But he was like such a heartthrob in this movie. And they're like, his sunburn doesn't matter. And we're like, it's not a
No.
sunburn. Like he's also a
Honestly, that's
murderer.
exactly what it looks like. It's like, did you stay out in the sun a little too long?
It's a
Um,
little blistered.
and I feel like it affected the dynamics in that movie because it's like, do I care about Raul at this point? Like, I kind of want to be with Gerard
You're
Butler.
rooting for him. You're rooting for Phantom.
There is a version of Phantom of the Opera, the piece, the music that lives rent free in my mind, and it is Sarah Brightman and Antonio Banderas singing that together, and it's fantastic. I'm a huge Antonio Banderas fan, and they performed that live, and I don't know what the context was, but you should look it up on YouTube. So there you go.
Yeah, I did not know that he sang at
Yep.
all. I mean, I've only heard him sing like the Living La Vida Loca at the end of Shrek 2.
Yep.
That was it.
Well, to be honest, it's like that's a good gateway to be like, yes, Antonio Banderas and Eddie Murphy both sing. This is a ton of fun. Because like I know he was in Evita, with like Madonna,
Yes.
the film and everything, and like it's a really great version of the song. So, see, side recommend. So something you can watch on
Yes.
later.
Putting it down.
Now, I have a few favorite kinds of questions here, but do you have a particular favorite genre of movies?
This is tricky because if you can look at my top three, they're very different.
Very different.
But but I would say recently I have been watching so many action movies.
Mhm.
And so like lately I have been really drawn to action movies. Like I wouldn't say well, I don't know. Particularly 80s, 90s. I was on the movie podium with some friends a little while ago, and we've been watching just so many. I think I've watched 30 action movies from
Mhm.
before the year 2000 recently, and it's just been so fun. So I do have to say, like, right now, I'm really loving action, but I am a sucker for a time period movie. Always. I really enjoy, I mean, movies like Amadeus or Barry Lyndon, I enjoy every now and again. They're
Yeah.
fantastic, but I really love like Emma Thompson's rendition of Sense and Sensibility with Alan Rickman. Fantastic watch. I love the Gwyneth Paltrow Emma. So movies like that I really enjoy as well. But yeah, recently I'm really into action movies right now.
Well, I'll literally watch anything with Emma Thompson. So she's
She's the
incredible.
best. Yeah.
And Barry Lyndon and Amadeus are both incredible period pieces for sure. Amadeus is
Wonderful.
one of my favorite movies, and there's just something special about it. But I'm a self-professed action snob, so like I love action movies, and I have very high standards for them.
Yes.
And like, you grow up, and I grew up watching a lot of, Die Hard and Arnold and Sylvester Stallone action movies. And they're very specific kind of 80s action movies, whether it's like watching Arnold in something like I probably watched Predator way too much when I was a kid. That or like RoboCop, and then the Sylvester Stallone, and I've watched First Blood and all the Rambos so many times at this point.
So
And
good.
and almost you forget that like First Blood was a serious movie. Before Rambo First Blood Part 2 came out, which is the most ridiculous name for a movie ever. And how hammy and ridiculous over the top that it gets.
Yeah,
And like even today, we're in a pretty special time with things like Fury Road and the Mission Impossible movies and the John Wick films, where it's like they're upping the ante in terms of
totally.
action movies. And to the point where like I'll watch anything Chad Stahelski directs just because how incredible all the action is, everything. And I heard rumors that they want him to do the new Blade movie, and I will lose my mind if he actually gets to do that.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's one of those moments where the internet gets your hopes up, and you're just like, you better not hurt me for
Oh, please.
this.
Yeah. Don't break
So
my heart. Yeah.
I'm still waiting for his Highlander movie because also cheesy 80s action movie,
So
for
good.
sure. Now, Do you have particular favorite filmmakers?
Yes, I wrote down three.
Okay.
Um, One of them I think you will really be stoked about. My
Mhm.
first one is Alfred Hitchcock.
Yep.
I absolutely love Hitchcock. I really went through a big Hitchcock phase this last summer, kind of in prep, like pre-fall, because I knew that in the fall I would have so many classic Halloween movies I had never seen. So I
Yeah.
was like, I want to get to these thrillers before.
Mhm.
So I watched Strangers on a Train for the first time, and I can't stop talking about it. I mean, this was like months and months ago, and I'm still like, have you seen Strangers on a Train? Have you seen Strangers on a Train? Has anybody else? Like, I need to talk about this movie.
So I one particular line delivery lives rent free in my mind, and I watched that movie for the first time probably like I don't know 16 years ago, and it's when Guy punches him, and he's just like, "You shouldn't have done that, Guy," and he just like looks
Yeah.
up at him, and it's just like
Oh.
it's chilling, but also like it's like, is he flirting with them a little bit? It has like that kind of underlying kind of feel to it.
Yes, it
Um,
totally does.
and obviously, so many people love Psycho or Vertigo, which
Hmm.
Vertigo is my favorite, but Strangers on a Train is really high up there for me. And just that whole entire dynamic, the montage cross-cutting between
Yes.
um the train and the tennis match and the whole thing on the carousel. Is
Oh.
it a little silly where you could tell it's like a foot on a stick kicking him in the face? Sure. But it doesn't take you out of the movie. It's really incredible film for sure. So yeah, Hitchcock
Totally.
is one of the all-time greats for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. On my list, on this like massive list I have the Anthony Hopkins Hitchcock like
Okay.
biopic, and
Hmm.
I really want to watch that. I feel like I need to save it for like getting closer to Halloween and then rewatch. And then there are a ton I haven't seen that I really want to that have like very specific historical context. I really appreciate historically what he did like during the Red Scare with I Confess, but I haven't seen I Confess.
Yeah.
So that's one that I'm really excited to like have a little bit more context with, because that's a very brave thing to do, especially at that time. Um, but that's also just who he was.
Yeah.
So love that. And I would be so mad at myself if I didn't even just like say the title Rear Window. I'm obsessed with Rear Window, executed so beautifully. And I do think Hitchcock knew how to work a camera like it was another limb.
Yeah.
And so I just really love him. My other two are Billy Wilder
Mhm.
and Guillermo del Toro. Love
Right.
Guillermo del Toro, everything he's done, I have really enjoyed. And I love that he did like also does cartoons. Like how cute.
Yeah.
He did Rise of the Guardians, and that's a favorite cartoon of mine. So it's just awesome.
It's Guillermo del Toro is probably one of the most like lovable filmmakers because like he's just such a nerd and you just
He
enjoy
is.
him doing his thing. And like, do we need another Frankenstein movie? No, but because he's making it, I'm excited about it.
We're gonna freak out
Um,
about it. Yeah.
yes. And I don't like I do not care what people say about The Shape of Water winning Best Picture. I absolutely love The Shape of Water, and that was one of my top films of 2017, and it deserved it.
Oh
So
yeah.
for sure, it's such
Oh,
a beautiful
so
film.
good. That's probably
And
my
that,
top 20 for
mhm.
sure.
And then Billy Wilder is one of those filmmakers that I feel like I wish more people today paid more attention to because
Yes.
incredible writing. Like honestly, I would take a Billy Wilder script over like 99% of scripts today because he just knew how to make it work. And whatever it was, like Some Like It Hot, such an iconic film. This movie's a mob movie. Like they witness the St. Valentine's Day massacre and then get in drag, hop on a train, and go to Florida. It
With
seems like the most
Marilyn.
ridiculous setup for a movie, and it works perfectly. And his dialogue is just absolutely incredible and just pops so well. Like The Apartment is an incredible film
Yes.
as well, for sure. So
Totally. I completely agree. I think honestly, I'm doing like a real series right now that is like 50 of the most quotable movies ever made. And
mm,
Some Like It Hot is in the top 20 because it is so quotable. Like I every time, I don't know why, I will randomly come up. It's not even relevant or anything, but I'll just
yeah.
be like, and I'm Daphne. Like there's no reason, but it just pops into my mind. Like anytime I want to exclaim something, it's just, I'm Daphne. It's so funny,
Like,
but yeah,
and
he's
nobody's
brilliant.
perfect.
Nobody's perfect. I'm
That's
not
like
really blonde. Oh,
it's one of the most perfect last lines in a movie. And the fact that the movie would even like end there. It's so perfect.
so perfect. And it doesn't end on the romance that we've been watching this whole
Oh,
time between Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe. It is them. It's so good. It's brilliant. It's
it's
brilliant. And he just
mhm,
knew how to do that. He just knew how to do it. It's magical.
magical. Now, thinking about in front of the camera, who are some of your favorite performers, actors, actresses?
Totally. Okay, I made an actor list, and then my
Okay.
actress is, I kept it short because there are too many people. They're all the people. Um, so for Golden Age, Old Hollywood, I really love Jimmy Stewart. I feel like Jimmy
Mm,
Stewart does a fantastic job in everything I've seen him in, and It's a Wonderful Life is so emotional. I just
yes.
wonderful performance from him always. But three of like my favorite actors that just are all so diverse and
Mm,
have never once let me down. Never once. Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, and Johnny Depp.
okay.
Just I've never been let down by any of them, and I love it. So anytime they're in a movie, I'm sold because they know how to really sell a performance. And then my actress is Emma
Mm,
Stone. I just
yes.
love her. She's so
Yeah.
funny. Um, and she also has this really wonderful, diverse career for being kind of like a younger actress.
Yeah.
Uh, you've got these hilarious comedies like Easy A, but then you've got Poor Things, La La Land, Birdman, so many.
Literally anything she's made with Yorgos Lanthimos. It's just like, and I have a
Yes.
feeling she's gonna be in every single one of his films for the rest of his career.
Yes, it's the De Niro to Scorsese for sure.
And the performance that she gives in Poor Things is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah,
There's just so much detail that she had to incorporate in terms of she's literally a different stage of life in every single scene in this movie
yeah,
and has to slowly make changes each time. And like that's insane. And that's
yeah,
such an incredible challenge. And it's like, it's so funny seeing her. It's like, yes, this was the girl from Easy A. And now she's like this Oscar darling performer.
hmm
And she makes such interesting choices. But the couple of the actors that you mentioned, like Brad Pitt is so great when he's being weird. And I
yes,
love his performances, like whether it's 12 Monkeys or even like Inglorious Bastards. Like
yeah,
that isn't like I'm a handsome leading man kind of role. He sounds like an idiot, but he's so
yeah.
committed to it
So
and
committed.
so committed. And then like I feel like a lot of people at this point have gone past like the Johnny Depp train because he kind of fell into a little bit of self parody with some of those later Tim Burton movies. But
Yeah,
like there's a point where it's like this was an incredibly strange and unique performer that it was ridiculous amount of talent. And there's a reason why he developed that relationship with Tim Burton in the first place because he really
hmm
knew how to express that. And like his first performance as Jack Sparrow was nominated for an Oscar. It was that crazy fun and unique for sure. So,
Yeah,
and I'm all about Tom Cruise doing other things besides action movies. And like,
yeah.
I'll be okay if he just makes action movies for the rest of his career. But when he does other things, he does incredible work. Even something as absurd as Tropic Thunder, like
Yeah.
the 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 balls on him to just be like, I'm gonna make fun of and parody Harvey Weinstein at the height of him being a
Yes.
big part of the industry. I'm like,
So funny.
I'm like, I want giant hands. And
Yeah.
that's why he has giant prosthetic hands.
Yes. No, he's so good and he commits to every single part. I think like for both Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, I immediately think of Interview with the Vampire with both of them because I'm like
Yes.
that role, both those roles, I just love them for, and it's the perfect example of Brad just being like full sending an amazing vampire performance that I'm pretty sure he actually hated. I'm pretty sure I thought he like tried to opt out towards the end of the movie and they were like, no. And then he like was not, I think he was nominated for an award for it. Um, but and then Tom Cruise as Lestat is just chef's kiss. So good.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, Anne Rice did not like them casting Tom Cruise and then did
Yeah.
it. And then it's just like he did amazing. Um,
Amazing.
and like going back to Jimmy Stewart, it's just one of the most incredible actors of the first half of the 20th
Totally.
century. And just like the way that he could be somebody as wholesome as George Bailey, and we love
Yeah.
him so much. And then some of his Hitchcock work, like he's a bastard in some of those
Yeah.
movies, but like
Totally.
it's hard. He's one of those kinds of actors that like he can sell those characters because we connect with him so much. And I'm doing a series on Moonrise on Wes Anderson, and I recently did my Moonrise Kingdom episode. Apparently, Wes Anderson's idea for Bruce Willis's character was to be a Jimmy Stewart type, and I'm just like, I never thought about that, but like now I'm like,
Yeah.
I want Moonrise Kingdom from like 60 years ago,
Yeah.
where Jimmy Stewart was just the captain on this island.
Oh my
And I'm like,
gosh.
it's such an interesting choice. But
Totally.
did you have any other actresses on there? I kind of interrupted.
No, you're fine. She is actually like the main one that I
Okay.
put. But I do feel like I would be remiss if I didn't mention I love Jennifer Lawrence because I think she's hilarious, but she also can really like pull a like a super impressive performance out. And of course Meryl Streep, like who isn't gonna shout out Meryl Streep? She's fantastic from Kramer versus Kramer to I also really love to mention A Series of Unfortunate Events. I think she's so funny as that aunt. And
Yeah.
it's a very short part of that movie, but the leeches, I just she's so funny. She's so good.
She is truly committed to every single role she's ever been giving, including
Yes.
like this is a woman who's been nominated how many times for Oscars and then just wholly went into Mamma Mia and just completely committed to it. And it's like
Totally.
you appreciate stuff like that. And
Uh-huh.
she's so fun and charming in that. Like I want Pierce Brosnan to stop singing, but like Meryl Streep does a really good job in that movie. And
She
also for the
does.
record, I love Pierce Brosnan. But
Yes. It's
he doesn't have
okay.
to sing. He doesn't have to sing.
It's all right.
Um, they made up for it, and here we go again, and made it like a very minimal amount of
Yes.
time for he's singing. Now, what's a film that you feel like you could watch literally like every day?
So the hard thing about this question is that I am the person who will rewatch the same movie multiple days in a row. I will start the same movie over again right after. I would be lying if I didn't say I have watched Legally Blonde 3 times in the past 7 days. I just will. I just will.
Yeah,
I love doing that. It's just movies will get stuck in my head, and I don't get sick of them unless it's like, eh, or it's a really heavy movie that I'm not gonna like watch that recreationally all the time. Um, but I'm gonna fire off four. One of them I've already mentioned, but I love She's the Man. She's the Man
okay.
is so funny, and it's just it gets me every time. Megamind. Megamind is
Nice.
brilliant. It is brilliant forever.
That movie had no
Um,
right to be as good as it is.
it didn't. It didn't. And the cast is so fun. They do a fantastic job. It's also in my 50 most quotable movies.
Mm.
Uh, because it's just the wittiest thing. I think you could watch it every single time and laugh harder at a different line you did not think was as funny the first time. Like you find a different funny line every time and you appreciate it every time. It's just so funny. My other one, this has kind of been a comfort movie since I was little, is Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets. I love the second Harry Potter movie. It is such a fantastic little mystery while not being too heavy, and it has that like very light Hogwarts magic that I'm pretty sure this
Mm.
is Chris Columbus. The
Yes.
first and second are Chris
The
Columbus.
first two had that very specific vibe. And then they're like,
Yes.
we're gonna go in a different direction now.
Dark, yeah.
It's,
Well, the director, I don't even remember the name of the director for Prisoner of Azkaban, but he was recommended by Guillermo del Toro. So it's
well,
like,
Alfonso Cuarón definitely has is channeling some Guillermo vibes with that.
yes.
And then once David Yates took over with Order of the Phoenix, then it was just like
Hmm.
this is gonna be it.
Yeah.
And now he's literally done 7 movies in the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. It's just like
Yes, yeah. He
so.
just killed it. And I think I really do think all of these different directors were so perfect for each phase of these books.
Mm.
But yeah, Chamber of Secrets, I enjoyed that we already had the base of who like Harry Potter was, what was happening, and it made this little mystery more specific of like, oh, it's Voldemort again. It's not, Professor Quirrell or whatever, like it, and I just loved it. I think, oh crap, what is his name?
Is it
Um,
Gilderoy Lockhart?
yes, yes. My mind
Which
was
Kenneth
blanking
Branagh,
completely. So
um,
funny.
like as a kid, I didn't really care about that character, but as an adult, just appreciating how smug and fun Kenneth Branagh's being is just an
So good.
absolute delight to watch.
It is so fun. And you know what I think is really funny is I can think of so many people like from when I was younger that acted like him. I feel like it's a very normal thing for people who are trying to sound like they know what they're talking about, uh, to like say something and then they're like, no. Everyone else is like, that's actually incorrect entirely, but okay. And, like, we've
Now,
all done it. But
we have to
yeah.
come to grips with the fact that they are remaking all of Harry Potter, which means that they're going to have to recast Gilderoy Lockhart. And I don't even care about the age. I want Hugh Grant to play that character because it would be absolutely perfect.
He would be so perfect. Like
He was
Bridget Jones'
perfect then.
Diary. Yeah,
Like,
like
he
those
would have been a
vibes,
perfect
totally.
choice then, too.
Oh, he so would have. He totally would have. And you know what? I do feel like the Wizarding World is missing Hugh Grant. Uh, like we've got Jude Law now, and I was really bummed that it didn't work out with Johnny Depp. That was devastating to me because I was like, he's not British, but he was such a great addition. So yeah, but Hugh Grant is missing.
And the fact that we're not going to get those last two means that I won't get sexy Jude Law Dumbledore for the last two Harry
Oh,
like
I know.
Fantastic Beast movies. I'm just like they're just gonna have to make another movie just for an excuse for Jude Law to be Dumbledore again because he was great.
Yes. He was so perfect. He was so perfect.
So
Um,
perfect.
but speaking of Hugh Grant, my last movie I could watch any day, and we did mention it, is Sense and Sensibility.
Nice.
I love this movie and I think it's timeless. It's also the only movie that I have seen with Alan Rickman as a good guy, which I love.
It's just like he was just well, it takes a while, but you do find out that Snape is guy.
It's true. Well, he's like
He
a renegade. He's in it for himself.
yes.
But you
Um
can't you see it. It's more contextual.
well and him I will never be able to hear the word always in the same way ever again because of Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Yeah,
Never
never.
ever again.
You mean always. It will always be there.
Yeah. Well, and his true most villainous performance was in Love Actually.
I
Um,
agree.
because
Weenie.
what he did to Emma Thompson is unforgivable.
Yes.
It's like, how
Uh,
could you do that to Emma Thompson?
totally. Oh my gosh.
Now, Clarissa, what's a film that you connect with closely because it relates to another interest of yours?
And I've already mentioned it. It's so funny. La La Land. La La
Mhm.
Land really, I had people when this came out. say to me, they're like, this movie was made for you. Because when it came out, I was a senior in high school and I was so gung-ho on going to Broadway. I was like, that is
Mhm.
my dream. I've been
Yeah.
doing this for years and I want to do it so badly. And then this movie came out and she loves old movies and she loves singing. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like Damien Chazelle like took a little set of binoculars and looked straight into my heart and then made this movie. But yeah, everything about it is so relatable. And I had auditions like that when I was younger and like where someone got on their phone or there was one time they literally like I someone said to me at an audition, "It was really brave of you to come and audition today." And I like full on bowed and left. Like Katniss Everdeen painting Seneca Crane, her little bow. I was just like, thank you. I did come and audition today. So,
Wow. People,
yeah,
the gall on
the
people.
worst. Yeah.
But what was interesting was I was actually dating a former musical theater student when La La Land came out and we saw that together, and
Oh,
she, like, I loved it, but she loved it. And it was something that was a special thing, being there with somebody who did appreciate it on such that kind of level. And it's a really special film for sure. And obviously, like, crazy to think that it was 9 years ago. But it's still something that resonates with so many people, and still beloved. And that's the sign of like a true like classic in the making, that it's like once you hit that like 10 years, do people still talk about it? And yes,
yeah.
people still talk about La La Land.
Yes.
uh, Now, who's a movie character that you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
I won't mention Mia from La La Land again.
Okay.
Um,
It's
because
okay
I
if you
would.
were going to, but
I I just feel like I have talked about it so much, but it really was. I do think, especially for the time, like now that's not really my ambition anymore, and it's not really a world I would like to pursue. But especially at that time in my life, she resonated so much with me. Um, I have two that I didn't even really think I resonated with until you asked this question, which is really interesting to me. I'm gonna say Barbie from the Barbie movie.
okay.
Um, I feel like as I've gotten older, and I think this might sound very young, uh, but like my frontal cortex just finished developing because
Yeah.
I'm 25. Um, I just feel like it used to be this kind of just like happy-go-lucky, whatever, like everything's lighthearted and nothing serious. But at the end of the movie, she's feeling these like very real things, and like I don't want to uh be out with friends all night every night. I don't want to, not talk about the serious things. These things aren't as important to me anymore. I want real things. And I think that's been something that as I've grown up, I've just felt so much of like I'm feeling the value of real things of like I want to buy a home now and like my
Yes.
husband and I want to talk about when we want to have kids someday and it's like I feel that I feel this like development that she has and neither version of Barbie is bad, it's
Mm.
just change. And so I loved that part of the Barbie movie, and especially as somebody who grew up watching all the like Barbie cartoons
Yeah.
it was so fun to really feel like that nostalgia. And I think that the other one, kind of in a similar sense, is Summer from 500 Days of Summer. And it's just that same thing of like it wasn't the right timing for things, and not romantically. Like I don't relate to her romantically with somebody in that way of like wrong person at the right time kind of a thing, but more just like I knew at the right time that things were right for me now. And when she has that conversation with him and she just says like I feel what I didn't feel with you, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And there are a lot of people who say, like, I've seen so many things on the internet that she's like a terrible person and whatever. But I'm like,
But
she just was
growing up
winning.
is realizing that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the villain of 500 Days of Summer.
Yeah. It's just that's just how life works. People change and people want different things. And I think that when I saw this question, those were the things that came to mind to me was like, I really appreciate, like when I was younger, she absolutely would have been the villain. I'd been like, boo, freaking Summer, like just end up with Joseph
Yeah,
Gordon-Levitt. He's so cute. Um, but but now I'm like, I can understand on a different level, like how life changes, it ebbs and flows, and things feel right at different times, you know? So I really
I
appreciate
feel
that.
like that movie's a maturity litmus test. Just being like,
Yes.
where do you lie on 500 Days of Summer? Like, I also
Yeah.
would like to, dance down the street to Hall and Oates, but like
Yes.
also realize that like not every relationship's gonna work just because you have feelings for somebody. And
Yeah.
that's a sad realization about life, but
Mm-hmm.
you're happier and you have better expectations of things when you realize like that can be the case.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes it's like you've reached that point in your life where Billie Eilish moody music is like your anthem now, and your whole
Yes.
entire perspective on life changes like Barbie.
Totally.
Because it's not like the big poppy kind of like I've listened to Dance the Night an insane amount of times since that song came out.
Yes.
But sometimes life is a Billie Eilish song and sometimes it's sad. So
Yes. You need to feel it. You need to appreciate it. Totally. Yeah, totally.
for sure. Now, what's a movie that you love that you feel like would surprise people?
Well, first off, a lot of people are actually really surprised that Die Hard is in my top three. Especially, I don't know, people who I like work with, people who I know, I wear dresses most of the time to work. I try to dress a little bit more feminine and professional. And so when someone sees me walk in like a dress and they're like, "What's your favorite movie?" And I'm like, "Oh, La La Land and Die Hard." They're like, what? Like jump scare. But but I also absolutely love Dracula 1992. Gary Oldman's Dracula is so beautiful.
Yep.
I'm obsessed with that movie. It's probably number 4 on my list.
I feel like because of Nosferatu, a lot of people are going back and enjoying some Bram Stoker's Dracula. Because, like,
Yes.
I feel like it's on the same kind of level of, like, this is a vibe. Um, like, Gary Oldman's Dracula is, when he's in, like, mustache top hat version of Dracula, just
Yes.
like, obviously not the beginning where he looks like
Decrepit.
vampire. But then, I was just reading this article and like I'm not the hugest fan of the website that it's on because they put out some annoying stuff, but it was like trailers that lied to you. I'm like, they definitely hid Count Orlok in the trailers for Nosferatu because they're convinced because it's people saw his mustache beforehand, there would have been so many memes out beforehand, which
Yeah.
if you have been on the internet since that has come out, and my wife has sent me no less than like 60 reels about Nosferatu and his mustache and bouncing on it crazy style. And I'm like, if I get and I'm like, meme culture has blown up because of this, but it's like that same kind of vibe. Except
Totally.
obviously Gary Oldman's Dracula is a lot more beautiful than Count Orlok.
Yeah.
Um, Bill Skarsgård's somewhere under there,
Just
somewhere
buried. You just gotta dig them out. Um,
buried under giant mustache. But no,
yes. Yeah.
Bram Stoker's Dracula is such a crazy vibe too, because like it was such a weird time for Francis Ford Coppola. Like this is the man who made like the first two Godfather movies, The Conversation and Apocalypse Now in a row.
Yeah.
And then I I legitimately think Apocalypse Now broke him. And then he had some winners in the 80s, and then he made Godfather Part 3, and then Dracula.
Yeah.
And Dracula is I think legitimately his last like really good movie that he made,
Yeah,
and it is
totally.
wild. Um, I think the wildest thing was casting Keanu Reeves in it, which is so awkward.
Yeah.
But unhinged Anthony Hopkins is certainly a vibe and is perfect for sure.
So good. So good. I would say like the only gripes I would have about that movie at all would be like there are a couple of lines that Keanu Reeves delivers, and I'm like, I don't buy what you just said one bit. But
No,
it's also like Keanu Reeves, and I'm just like, okay, like you do your thing, Keanu. I don't know. So it's just, but
dear
yes.
God, like throw on a British accent on Keanu, which I don't know whose
Whose
really
idea
an
was
idea
that?
that was, but
Totally.
uh,
Yeah.
I love Keanu, but he has a lane. He has like very
That's
specific
fair.
lanes,
Yes.
and that's okay. That's
Yeah.
perfectly okay.
Mhm.
Now, Clarissa, my last question for you is: what do you love most about movies?
You know, this is a good question because I feel like people should be asked this question.
Mm,
Um, I don't feel like people really ask this question enough. It's very much like, oh, you just love movies. But like if I had a friend who was really into art, like painting or ceramics, I'd be like, why do you enjoy that? Like, tell me about that. I don't really know too many people who like can stare at a painting for a really long time. But I do think cinema is an art form, and art imitates life. There are so many things that I've been able to experience in a very small way because of movies. And I think that's kind
mm,
of all of us, right? I grew up in a sheltered home, which I'm very grateful for. I'm more than fine that I didn't watch rated R movies until I was older. But I grew up in a very religious home. And so my parents would like filter movies and cut out like language, nudity, anything like that, like alcohol or drugs or anything like that. And so when I was older and I started watching movies unfiltered for the first time, there were times I was uncomfortable and it was new to me. But I started to recognize like I'm uncomfortable because these are things that I've never experienced.
mm,
And somebody was brave enough to present it to me in a way that I could in a small setting. Like I'm not actually this person experiencing this thing, but I'm able to have an empathetic experience of like understanding a little bit of those emotions of something that I may not and probably never will experience. Like I've never been to war, but watch Bridge on the River Kwai and I'm seeing these
mhm.
things for the first time, or Platoon where you feel like there are ants all over you and it's icky, but I'm grateful for those because I'm like,
Yeah.
this is what people have lived through. And it's brave to be able to see that and to experience that. And like what a lucky opportunity, and I really love film history. I love going back through the industry's history and kind of
Mhm.
seeing where everything lays in a timeline and how this developed and kind of talking about, the Universal monsters in that first like big
Mhm.
franchise of horror ever, and learning how people during the Great Depression, even though they had no money to their names, were willing to spend money to go and see these horror movies because they wanted to step out of their own lives to experience something other than what they were currently experiencing. It's just so cool and so beautiful that we live in a time where we're able to have that and have this advanced technology where we can see these
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful movies. It's just so cool. So I mean, a little geeky about it, but it's just the coolest opportunity. And I don't think people really fully take that in. That like if you are feeling this way about a movie and you're feeling this emotional experience, it's because
Mm.
you're supposed to, and that's your humanity speaking and reacting to this art that you are experiencing. So it's so cool.
Well, and I think film's the most unique form because how many layers it works on. You act
Yes.
because, like, I think one of the beautiful things about like, and I've been a reader my whole entire life, is that your imagination takes over. Film engrosses you. It puts you into this experience with people that you've never met, people that are dealing with things you've never dealt with. And I think that's incredibly special. And you can learn so much about other people from like what they want to tell in terms of a story. And also appreciate the Bridge on the River Kwai mention. Big fan.
So
No,
good.
so good.
So good. Yeah.
Now, Clarissa, how I always like to wrap up my show is let my guests ask me a question. So, what would you like to ask the Wasteland reviewer?
I've been kind of letting this marinate this
Mhm.
whole time, and I've been trying really hard because, of course, so many questions come to mind. Movies have that ability to just like, oh, I could ask you about any genre, any actor, any actress, any director. Um, but I think I really want to ask, like, what is one movie that you had a really special experience with that like stands out to you?
So, there's one particular film where I was sitting in the theater and really was, I didn't realize like how a whole bunch of things in my life came together in that moment, me sitting and watching it. And this is going to be very interesting and a little bit of backstory, but it's Logan. And it's because so I was named after the movie Shane. So it's funny, like I was named after a movie, so it was destined for me to be,
Love
obsessed with film
movies.
and stuff like that. And I remember my one of my baseball coaches when I was a kid bought me the movie Shane because I had never seen it. Like I'd never
Oh.
watched the movie that I was named after. And like I remember watching it then and not being really impressed, and now realizing like this is one of the most interesting and layered westerns that you're gonna find. But so, but that is a side note. But I remember watching X-Men for the first time when I was like 9 years old and just becoming obsessed with Wolverine. Is there a reason why I have mutton chops? Yes. Um, and all through college, I had full mutton chops, like full blown Wolverine mutton chops, just like Hugh Jackman. And Wolverine Logan is one of my favorite movie characters, one of my favorite comic book characters. And I remember, God, when I saw that trailer for the first time for Logan and Johnny Cash's Hurt is playing in it, and you're just like, I had this emotional, visceral reaction to the trailer itself, and I'm just like, this is gonna this is gonna hurt me. This is gonna hurt. And
Yeah.
seeing the film, and I had the strangest moment because at one point in that film, you see this young girl and Charles Xavier sitting and watching Shane in the movie. And I'm like, this feels strange that like these things are like this because also the whole entire second act of Logan is Shane, like where he
Oh.
goes to that family's farm and gets involved and like it literally is the plot of Shane. So like that was a very purposeful nod from James Mangold because like James Mangold loves old Hollywood and filmmaking and is one of the few directors today that still like channels that. And I'm just sitting there like, has my life come full circle here in this moment? And it's such like a strange kind of experience sitting in the theater that, and then also Logan's one of the only two movies I've legitimately cried in a
Hmm.
theater sitting there. Ah, the end of that movie gets me every time. And when that kid like turns the little cross into an X, I'm like, kid, why are you doing this to me? But like that movie was such a big moment for me because that character, like I based a lot of my looks and my appearance off of that.
Yeah.
And like people used to call me the campus Wolverine when I was in college. Like that was one of the weirdest things when somebody said that to my face for the
Uh-huh.
first time. And I'm like, so like that meant a lot to me. But then also like the movie that I was named after like collided in that moment. And I'm like, it was the strangest feeling. But also I love Logan and I could watch
Yeah.
that. Well, can I watch that every day? Do I want to be hurt every day? But no, so that's the first movie that I think of that gave me like a purely like strange, like completely moving experience in a way that I did not expect going in. Like I expected to
Yeah.
go in and absolutely love Logan. I didn't expect to have like this strange, like full circle kind of like this is weird kind of moment. So that's
Yeah.
definitely one that stood out to me for sure.
Wow. So I've only seen like bits and pieces of
Mhm.
Logan. I bought it on DVD so that I could watch it recently. So it's on my list. But I had no idea that they watch that movie. That is
Mhm.
so cool. And I mean, seriously, like I was saying with La La Land, it's like they peered into your soul. They just, this movie was made for
James
you. How
Mangold was like,
crazy.
I'm making this movie just for you, Shane. And honestly, and I was just having this reflection talking to my wife because with the Oscars that happened this past weekend, my favorite movie, my number one movie from last year was A Complete Unknown. And I feel like I'm kind of sitting on an island here because like a lot of people are like, I enjoyed it. It was fine. But like there's something about what James Mangold does as a filmmaker that captures a forgotten kind of feel of movies. Like I remember watching Ford v Ferrari and just being like swept up in this feeling of like
Yeah.
this is what movies used to feel like, and that's something really cool. So I'll keep seeing whatever James Mangold makes.
Yeah.
Um, but thank you for that question for sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, fantastic answer. I mean, blown away. I've got chills.
Well, you're welcome. So now, Clarissa, thank you so much for coming on and talking movies with me.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much again for having me. This is just so much fun. And like you said earlier, it's so nice to be able to connect with other people about movies and things.
Mm,
I mean, everybody brings something different to the table. So I really love that opportunity. So thank you.
absolutely. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.